going to mute myself.
So thank you so much for the opportunity. You you should have received, I'm sure you did, a 2-page handout that summarizes the program. It's a summary of what we do and just shares the mission and philosophy and our core values of the program. And the slideshow will just be photographs showing the work and just highlighting the bullet points from that summary. And in terms of the mission and philosophy and core values, you can, see that there, that it is a privilege and honor to get to do this work, and that a program like this even exists within a food bank is really special. And I'm just so proud of having a program that is preventative and engages the community. And I've been doing this for 8 years now, and there isn't, I continue after 8 years, I continue to be challenged, and I learn every day. I'm no master gardener. I love to learn with the kids and with the families that we work with. You can hit the next slide. Yeah, and so it really is about community engagement. I think what I love most about school garden work is that if you seek out the farmers market because that's something you're aware of or participate in, great. If you belong to a community garden or have a garden at home, that's awesome too. But the idea of schools being the hub, and that's where families get opportunities to access a garden, and who might not otherwise, whether they live in an apartment or, shopping at the farmer's market isn't something that they do typically. That, we provide all of those opportunities at the school for children and their families, with the goal of kids having access to fresh food and trying them, and more specifically locally. What I really love is giving them access to a carrot that still has the green tops attached, things like that. You can go ahead and hit the next slide. How we do the work is through School Garden AmeriCorps, a School Garden AmeriCorps position, which we've had since 2013. It is also, there are so many things I love about this program, but as the mother of a 25-year-old, I just really love that age group between 18 and 25, and that is mostly who the age range of our AmeriCorps. And those are all of the AmeriCorps that we've had. Morgan Lord continues to be staff she's now a staff person at the food bank and has been since that time. She manages our summer lunch program and our Friday bag program. Lana Melchers, she returned as a summer lunch staff. Helen Lant, she spent 2 years with us, which is phenomenal when you can have an AmeriCorps for 2 years. And she is now also staff at the food bank. And Zoe Lovato has a strong interest in returning to the food bank to continue to work. So really, really love and value and appreciate our AmeriCorps position. And the challenge with the AmeriCorps position is the living wage, the stipend. Very, very challenging, especially when it comes to finding housing, affordable housing, with that kind of a stipend. And recently, the CYS has opted out of hosting AmeriCorps. Hopefully that's a temporary situation, but in the meantime, we did find another way to host an AmeriCorps, but the cost of that is now double. So we previously spent between $9,000 and $10,000, and it's close to 20 now. So that is a substantial increase. You can go to the next slide. And then the other thing that I really love and value, and is just an awesome part of the program, and is having evergreen interns. And that was probably my biggest team. Two of the interns there were 40-hour-a-week positions, so that was an independent learning contract, and then or student originated studies, and then another one was, I think, 30 hours. And then we had one that was a 10-hour-a-week intern, and all of them leave so much behind, and they're just such a gift, and I just really, really enjoy having interns from Evergreen. That's Helen in the Lydia Hawk Garden. So we have sort of four, in terms of what we do, there are four categories. There's garden education and access. So those are highlighted in the green. You'll see there, garden education and access. And then following that, I'll just show some pictures of what that looks like. And then the other one will be modeling access to fresh fruits and vegetables, and then demonstration of consumption of fresh fruits and vegetables, and then community engagement and support. So that is a summary of what we do and how we do the work. How we choose where we are is based on free and reduced lunch numbers. So I can't be everywhere, and being where we're most needed. And Lydia Hawk, I would say, is the where we're most needed, and it's kind of the hub of the school garden program. It's a very large garden. It is walking distance to the new Lacey Food Bank. Many of the children that attend the school are where we see families and children during summer, providing summer meals in their neighborhoods. So the food bank delivers meals to children that we work with at Lydia Hawk. So it's a beautiful garden and a beautiful space, but an incredible amount of work. And how kids get access to the garden is garden recess with our AmeriCorps, specifically, mostly at Lydia Hawk. And then we also do quite a bit of that at Mountain View Elementary on College Street. You know, access to the garden can be challenging. Teachers are overwhelmed, and I think sometimes teaching kids outside is just a different way of teaching, and not everybody is comfortable with that. And so for me personally, it's just opening up the garden, making it a space that doesn't feel daunting to a teacher, like that a teacher can go out and enjoy it and not be overwhelmed by managing the garden, or you know, doing all of the repairs or the weeding and the maintenance. So garden recess is a really great way for kids to get access, and we do that with AmeriCorps and interns. So the garden is opened up during recess. And you know, finding parents to even have that kind of time is challenging right now. With most families, both parents are working, and there isn't that much time or opportunity to volunteer. Even for me personally, that was a challenge. I was a school garden program manager, and I didn't have time to volunteer in my own kid's garden because I was a working mother. So having the interns and AmeriCorps is so important. And go ahead. And again, AmeriCorps and intern provide, you know, the program essentially provides garden lessons and activities. We come up with all kinds of creative, fun ways for kids to be engaged in the garden, whether it's the school garden or a field trip to a community garden. These photos were part of the fifth grade teachers at Mountain View Elementary reached out and said that they wanted that their students had in the fall a writing assignment that was sensory, a sensory environmental writing assignment. And so the kids went on a walking field trip across the street to the St. Mark Garden on College, right across from their school, and kids took notes about what they observed and smelled and tasted. And I would love to share with you after today some of the writing that the children wrote. It was just incredible. And so that was something that we do in addition to maintenance and garden recesses, help facilitate field trips. This was a really fun game that one of the interns, who is an artist, created. It's a food system game, and insisted that it all be done on recycled cardboard from the warehouse at the food bank. And so it's just a fun game of like, what does it take to get an apple to the grocery store? And then what parts of the system can be removed if you have an apple tree in your neighborhood or school garden. So it's kind of a really fun game, and a beautiful, just another example of what interns in AmeriCorps leave behind. And again, like I said, a huge joy in this job. And like you saw the clipboards of the kids taking notes, and the magnifying glasses to really engage kids and being outdoor learners is really important. I don't know, when I was a kid, your kids' senses are just heightened at that age, and to be actual scientists with magnifying glasses and clipboards is just lovely and amazing. And again, using the school as a place to learn outside. Worms are so exciting, so exciting. So just a really fun photo of all the kids just so thrilled with the sight of a worm in a garden. I love beautiful photos to share the stories. And again, just kids getting their hands dirty and digging in the dirt. This is a tree underneath the St. Mark Garden, which is across the street from Mountain View Elementary, and it's only a mile away from Camachin Middle School. So Camachin Middle School horticulture teachers have taken the kids on a walking field trip from Camachin to St. Mark. What's really great about that, oh, I wish I had a photo of farmer Gary. He grows the corn and the beans, and then there's another farmer at the St. Mark Community Garden that grows the potatoes. And when the horticulture students walk to that garden for a field trip, the farmers that we call them farmers, the volunteers at the community garden that grows almost 15,000 pounds of food for the food bank, they get to hear from Farmer Gary about all of his tips and tricks and favorite ways to grow things, or lessons that he's learned over the years. And the kids really love hearing about that, and pay very pay close attention, and just really enjoy listening to the farmers talk about that. And then also just the entire school of Mountain View Elementary does a walking field trip across the street to participate in this community garden. And we work with the interns in AmeriCorps, really showing how capable kids are of learning outdoors, and transitioning from being outside, being from the classroom and being outside, and treating it like it is a outdoor classroom. And so how we behave in an outdoor learning environment, and how much kids really enjoy that. And then transitioning, we always transition underneath this tree on our way back, and kind of have a little chat and a mindful moment about sort of calming down and walking back to class. And so I love that treat. And again, field trips are really important to me, and has been something that we've expanded on over the years. Not only to, specifically and very uniquely is the St. Mark Garden across from Mountain View. I mean, that isn't something that I can replicate at every school, but that it's a free field trip. It's a walk. That's incredible access, but that we also can treat the school garden as a field trip, getting an entire class to come out and visit the school garden for calling it a field trip, but also as just a moment to have a brain break and just get outside, but in a different way, not like recess. And then the other thing that's really important to me is having kids visit the food bank. And so we do lots of field trips of kids coming to the food bank. The North Thurston High School, or North Thurston Middle School rather, all of those schools have a horticulture program at the middle school. And those teachers have done field trips where students take the bus to the food bank. They get a tour. We talk about access and that there should be no stigma about coming to the food bank, that we're here for everybody, and we're here for families primarily, and the kids are in the building and that they feel comfortable in that space, so that it isn't something that it's welcoming, and so they get a tour, and then they walk over to the farmers market at our downtown food bank. They walk to the farmers market, and they've done some really fun things like a scavenger hunt where they have to find things, or they meet a farmer and get to interview the farmer. Really great engaging field trip. And then we've collaborated with the walk and roll program and had the kids ride the intercity transit bus back to school so that they have access to and also get to experience public transportation. So that was a really fun way to collaborate with other school organizations, such as the walk and roll program. Again, the partnership with the church across the street, and that the entire school helps plant the garden. So we've already been through, like, our little kindergartners graduated 2 years ago, 5th grade, and moved on to the middle school. So we had quite a lot of kids from that 5th grade class that had been coming to the garden since kindergarten. So kindergarten typically plants the pumpkin patch, and 1st grade might plant the peas because they're large seeds, and so on. And usually 5th grade plants the tomatoes because they're delicate and more fragile, and it's better for larger children to. And anyway, by the time they're done, each grade has planted a crop. I didn't add photos, and I should have. I could add so many beautiful photos, but the volunteers at the church also provide a snack. So whatever crop the kids are planting, the kids get to eat that particular crop in their snack. That includes, fresh strawberries from Spooners. It's just lovely. And by the time we're done, it's almost, I think 5 to 6, maybe 600 students have participated in this field trip. 30 field trips was the last time we did it pre-pandemic. We had 30 field trips to the garden. And then too, just also just modeling farmers markets and access to the food bank, and kids and families having an opportunity to try and take home locally sourced foods. So the St. Mark Garden growing 15,000 pounds of food for the food bank. Kiwanis, I don't have I can't remember what the latest is on how much the Kiwanis gardens grow for the food bank, but and then all of the farmers in the Independence Valley and farmers market farmers that donate their produce to the food bank. We really, that right there is food, locally grown food that was distributed to families at schools. One of the things that I really love as well is that usually when we do the field trips, sometimes parents come and they volunteer as a chaperone for the field trips. And I feel like sometimes they come because they're also curious. And so we get a lot of participation and parent volunteers during those field trips. And so I really love having families that might not have ever come to the food bank or been in our spaces, and that whether it's the warehouse or downtown, and now soon to be at the Lacey location, that we have parents come and get to see our spaces and be in them and know that it's a place for them, whether it's to come to access food or even to come back to be volunteers. And the same goes for the field trips to the gardens. And one of my favorite quotes was this mom. She just blurted out when she saw the artichoke, and she was like, "Oh, that's why they're so expensive. When you see how big that plant is and how very few artichoke grow on it." And I love those little light bulb moments. And same with cross-generational and cultural learning in the school garden or community garden, but really more specifically the school garden. Having elderly volunteers come, and recently I had an interaction with a custodian who visits one of our gardens in the summertime, and he's the one that harvests the food out of that garden. And the other day he said, you know, in Korea we use this lovely spicy sauce, and we put it on rice, and then we roll it in the lettuce leaves, and you know, so much sharing with families and children about how they use the food that we grow in the garden at home, and from all their different cultural perspectives. So I really love and value that. That's Miss Pat there. She's that's one of her garden beds at the St. Mark Garden. And when we have those for 30 field trips, she's out there every day tending and caring for her garden. So we all wave at Miss Pat and watch her garden grow in the spring. And more of the lessons, and just giving kids an opportunity to taste and try and see the beauty of fresh food. What a beautiful rainbow that is. That's an actual garden lesson that I photographed, that I brought to kids at a garden to show them the rainbow, and then they all snacked on that in a garden. And again, the interns in the AmeriCorps leave back beautiful handouts with great nutrition information that the kids go home with. And another one being in the fall, I really love the idea of school gardens growing herbs for our Thanksgiving. We distribute over 3,000 Thanksgiving baskets, and we've had several schools grow herbs and make little herb bouquets for turkeys. And then again, an AmeriCorps created those fun handouts for the kids while they took those home, and then also made the little bouquets. And then also providing fresh bags of like snack bags. So we'll sometimes deliver those to classrooms, or the kids get those in the garden during recess. We'll have all pre-pandemic, of course, but we are really excited to get back to having kids snack and nibble on things in schools and outdoors in the garden. But those are actual bags of little veggies that I brought to some kids in a garden that I visited. And then mini CSAs, again, modeling and farmers markets. So giving away a mini CSA at a school to kids that get our Friday bags, or opening up a farmers market at the school and giving away free vegetables. It's a free farm stand. And so that right there is an example of what one might look like. And, you know, we include a recipe that matches, you know, the ingredients. And that was another one I took in the very beginning, but just another example of the beautiful food that we get at the food bank. And that is a farm stand. So one of the things that the program has been SNAP-Ed funded, and originally when I first began doing the work, I was under the SNAP-Ed federal contract, which we have an entire team of. But eventually, like about 2-3 years ago, some of one of the school districts did some boundary changes to create some equity in the schools. Schools that had really high free and reduced lunch numbers went down, and part of the getting funding in schools with the SNAP-Ed program is that the school has to have above 50% in free and reduced lunch numbers. And so when those boundary changes happened, we lost funding to be in some of our schools. And Robert Coit, my boss, our brilliant director and visionary, I was just incredible, and he removed me from that federal contract, and I am now food bank funded, local donor dollar funded, which really frees me up to be sort of have unrestricted funding. And we were able to go to those schools that we lost funding for and say, look, we can't do this SNAP Ed work as intensively as we did, but what did you love about what we did, and what would you like us to continue? And that's where the school garden program gets to continue some of that SNAP Ed work beyond the SNAP Ed contract. And one of the things that many of the schools loved was our farm stand, and that was the thing that they loved the most and wanted us to continue to do. So at 3 of the schools, it's quite an effort. The night before school starts, kids go in the fall, kids go to the school, they meet their teacher, they drop off their school supplies, and on their way out, they stop by the farm stand and they go home with fresh bags of veggies. And we do that at 3 schools on the first day. And that too is a farm stand. Madison had an incredible program where they did farm stands. Gosh, they did like 4 a year, I believe, maybe even more. That is a partnership between Avanti High School and Madison Elementary. And again, a unique partnership, but Quasar, that's Quasar right there. She's brilliant and incredible. And then the demonstration of, we showed modeling, and then this is a demonstration of consumption of fresh fruits and vegetables. And so doing a lot of food tastings and just giving kids access to fresh food and opportunity to try things continuously, whether it's in the classroom, on a field trip, at an after school event. We participate in a lot of the multicultural North Thurston has phenomenal multicultural events. I mean, they are beautiful and engaging and incredible. I highly recommend attending one. If anybody ever wants to come with me, please do. You will be so inspired by how beautifully diverse the North Thurston School District is. And again, at those multicultural nights, so in March, the theme is peas, and we have split pea soup. One of my favorite stories about that Hungarian split pea soup is we have someone downtown that actually is homeless, and this person would come and help me unload my car and ask about the kids. And one day he said, "What are you working on these days?" And I said, "Oh, we're about to have a community night, and it's multicultural, and I'd like to do split pea soup though, because it would be a fun recipe to have folks taste." And he said, "Oh man, you should have Hungarian split pea soup. That is the best." And he inspired that recipe, and sharing split pea soup with microgreens and then passing out seeds. And it's one of my favorite community nights, and appropriate for March, because that's when you can almost start to plant peas in the spring, one of the first things to start planting. And then also cooking with kids. So we do cooking in the classroom. How am I doing on time? I feel like anyway, so cooking with kids, giving kids access to, those are really cool knives that are very safe, and kids getting opportunities to crack an egg and learn how to use the tools. I got a donor one year that donated $500 towards cooking supplies, and I was able to purchase all those beautiful, lovely, colorful cooking supplies for kids to use in the classroom with kids. And Chop Chop Magazine, if you've never heard of it, is a really cool magazine. And we used to have funding for that through the SNAP Ed contract, and we could buy those magazines to distribute to kids, and they're incredible. More of the revitalizing gardens. So that garden in particular was in jeopardy of being wiped out. So we swooped in a few times to clean it up, and that was that really great group of interns that I had one year, and just coming in and cleaning up a garden so that it doesn't look so daunting for the teachers or the school, and they can actually enjoy it. So having those, so that garden sustainability piece, and coming in and helping facilitate maintaining them. We can't be everywhere, we can't do it everywhere. Ideally, the principal, the school, the families, the teachers all contribute to that, but sometimes that doesn't happen. And then if I think it's in jeopardy of going away, we will swoop in to save it. To save it. Involving PTAs. So some schools have really strong PTAs. They have the capacity to fundraise and volunteer. And so at those schools, we partner in that way. And this was a PTA at Garfield that volunteered to build bags of, or, you know, like mini CSAs of fresh vegetables for children at their school. And then organizing work parties to help them maintain and sustain the gardens. And we usually pick about 3 or 4 gardens during spring break while kids are home. And then it provides an opportunity for teachers to come back from spring break refreshed and ready to take kids outside to a garden that's been revitalized. Youth, young people everywhere. I love this picture. So yeah, that's more kids volunteering to build bags of fresh vegetables for kids. Partnering with the North Thurston science team has been really fun and rewarding. In the North Thurston School District, kids learn about ecosystems at every grade, a different ecosystem at every grade level, and second graders learn about pollinator gardens and also water conservation. So that is a prairie garden that is next to where you saw in the previous photos, that garden that looked pretty icky and messy. They just received a brand new garden. So we built all new garden beds there, and that is next to the pollinator garden. And the vision is for every elementary school in the North Thurston School District to have a garden and a pollinator garden to teach about conservation, water conservation. And that's more of the garden being built, and that was how we adapted through COVID, because kids weren't at school and we didn't have access to children. We got to work rebuilding gardens, revitalizing them, and preparing them for when children came back to school. That was our hope for the future, and what got us through it was building multiple new gardens. That is Charlie Schneider, City Council member in the Tumwater School District. And that is another new garden that we rebuilt at Michael T. Simmons. And that was really fun. Joel showed up for that one, and we had the district staff come to that. It was a really fun community event, really fun and exciting, and all through COVID. And our school garden tour that Nora is incredible at helping me organize. We've done several of them over the years. We have different themes, and at each location, maybe a different topic for conversation. And along the way, we'll collect food from the gardens, and then we have a picnic at the end. And I'm super, super excited to have 3 of them this year. We have 2 on that flyer, but we added an additional one in October. I believe it's the 16th. I'll get that out to you. So 3 of them, and they'll have different themes and different topics of, to have conversations and information sharing, and hopefully a meal at the end. So super excited to get that organized with Nora in the next couple of weeks. Also, I'm doing a little mini tour tomorrow. So South Bay Elementary is excited and eager to rebuild a very small garden that they have. So tomorrow what we're going to do is we're going to visit the Mountain View Garden to see what a very sort of neat and tidy minimal garden can look like, school garden. And then we're also going to go to the Lydia Hawk Garden, which is not so neat and tidy, much bigger, and that'll give them a really good perspective of what a school garden can look like. And then we'll meet at South Bay at the end. Again, that's tomorrow at 10 o'clock. And then we'll meet at South Bay for them to discuss, what is their vision for their garden. So that's an example of a garden that has a principal, teachers, PTA. They have all the resources and all, and that's for them to figure out, but I'm there to help facilitate how that could look for them. And then sometimes I get these crazy ideas, and my amazing boss, Robert Coit, lets me lets me have some fun. So the governor, Inslee, proclaimed September to be Food Literacy Month. And I thought, oh, this would be a really fun way to partner with Jennifer at South Sound Reading Foundation. She is just a blast. I love working with her. And we came up with this vision of having an annual food literacy event where we feature books that are garden based and teach about food literacy, and with the hope of and then donating those books to all the school libraries, and then with the hope of the library featuring those books in September when children come back to school, and to inspire love of gardens at schools. And so that is a way for me to be involved and participate in all the schools in Thurston County. You know, it's a way to sort of shine light on school gardens everywhere. And go ahead. And our very first food literacy event guest speaker was Trudy Inslee, and that was really fun and very special. And it was our first year where we launched, I believe, 5 or 6 books and donated them all to all the libraries in all 3 school districts. It was really fun, very special. Oh, and back to that food literacy event, I wanted to share also that we had Nikki McClure one year as a guest, and then we had another author, Catherine Pryor, come as a guest. So that food literacy event was really fun and special. So, and then to just highlight our nutrition team as a whole, that we have the school garden program, but the school garden program is within a team of nutrition, our nutrition service group, and Eileen is our leader and manager of that, and I absolutely love working with her. And then to just introduce the rest of the team, where we all collaborate and come together and provide, oh my goodness, Claudia makes incredible food. She is part of that team, and there's our AmeriCorps and a volunteer, and anyway, providing beautiful fresh food during school garden events. That's Claudia. And just some photos. Those, oh, that's the beet story, the red velvet cupcakes made with beets and beet coleslaw featuring, that was a really fun way to feature beets. And that's Holly, who does nutrition education in 2 of our schools, which is Lacey Elementary and Lydia Hawke Elementary. Those are the 2 that we have funding for with that SNAP Ed funding. And where she does classroom lessons and more access to fresh food, healthy snacks. And then our evening events where we do cooking. Yeah, those are really amazing, where families will sit in the cafeteria and they'll have like a family unit, or maybe two moms and their kids, and they all get to prepare a meal together. So those we haven't done in the last couple of years, but they're definitely something I want to go back to. They're very, very rewarding. And then just to share, you know, our shopping model and our efforts to really provide fresh food to our families that visit the food bank. And that's it. Woo! Woohoo! Yikes, that was a lot. And I don't think I scratched the surface.
That is amazing, all the different things that you're doing. It's so inspiring. The question I have, Michaela, is what would it take from our community to be able to expand these programs and touch more students in more schools?
Yeah, you know, what I can do with an AmeriCorps position is incredible, phenomenal, and having fresh eyes every year. You know, they come for 10 months and they're just so excited, and they have fresh eyes, and they really add so much, and they can be, you know, that boots on the ground while I'm managing, coordinating, and organizing all of it. So having more AmeriCorps would definitely be a way to grow it. What's challenging right now is that you know, the funding for that has literally doubled for us. So currently we have one full-time AmeriCorps position. So to have them, and you know, I really struggle with, you know, that most of the work is in the North Thurston School District. A lot of that is because of the higher free and reduced lunch schools. But we, you know, our kids and families that come to the food bank are in every school in all 3 school districts, you know, and you know, we can't be everywhere. I can't do everything, but to have more AmeriCorps specifically supporting school garden work is the dream and the vision, you know, for expanding that work. In terms of funding, you know, we have had the SNAP Ed funding previously, and right now there isn't really a sustainable funding stream other than that Robert has, you know, given me the privilege of using local donor dollars to fund my program. It's it's it would be better if there was more sustainable funding. And Joel has been incredible in helping me with that by, we did have the city of Tumwater give us some funding, and that was phenomenal. And, you know, just really kind of, you know, it wasn't a huge amount of money, but it was a lot for my program. But to know that the community is invested in it, you know, that they decided, yeah, this is something we want to support. So uh, having that kind of funding was incredible. I do want to say too, I'm sorry I'm speaking so much. You can't shut me up about my program. So but the other dang it, I had a thought about that. It left my brain. It just completely left. Anyway, yeah, expanding and sustaining the program.
The funding in Tumwater, did that make it into the budget this next year as well? I heard a rumor that it had, but I haven't.
I have yet to have a conversation about that. We did get, I didn't actually spend all of the money, and I was really conservative about and very intentional about about how we spent our time, and especially with all the complexities of COVID. And so there was money left over at the end of that 1-year contract. And so we extended it from April to August. And so this summer I'll be spending that out. So I was really careful with how I spent the money and very intentional.
And just so people know, how much does it cost to have one AmeriCorps student for the 10-month cycle?
Yeah, so in previous years, it has been about $9,000, which, I mean, for a 40-hour-a-week position, that is incredible. But it has doubled. Currently, it's doubled. It's about almost 20,000. But that was because folks that are hosting AmeriCorps are insisting that we need to pay these young people a living wage so they can afford to live in the communities that they serve.
Sure, absolutely. One of the thoughts that I've had as the next strategy in Tumwater is Joan, Kathy, and myself and some other folks got through the Metropolitan Parks District measure, we've got some money set aside in the budget for community gardens. And now I will really want to push this idea that school gardens are community gardens. And so some of that funding could be directed to school gardens and could be directed towards bringing the community into school gardens, particularly in the summertime when the kids aren't in school, and utilizing them in that way. But I'm hopeful that there's a strategy there to open up some of the resources that have been earmarked for community gardens. And I think Olympia probably has community garden funding as well. I know that they do. I don't know what Lacey has. I know that they were really interested in that and in expanding their community garden program. So I've been saying this phrase over and over whenever I talk to people, that school gardens are community gardens, and hopefully that can give people the idea that if there's community garden funding, let's direct it at school gardens, because we can help, we can help educate kids, but then also we can invite the community into the school garden and participate. in that space as well. So
that was the thought that left me, was specifically that school gardens are community gardens, they are public spaces, and that the challenge with parks services directors and parks who are being asked to provide community gardens, that the place to cultivate that is at a school garden, to really open the school garden as a community space, and that's the way to cultivate and really begin to create a culture around valuing what those spaces offer. So I really love and value school garden work, and again, it's all about access. That's where everybody can really access and participate.
I just have one more comment that the South Sound Food Systems Network is the food action team for the Thurston Thrives Coordinating Council. We have that role, and at Thurston Thrives, there's been conversations over the last 6 months about really focusing on systemic racism and racial equity in regards to health, and so we've had some conversations about what can we do as the South Sound Food Systems Network to focus our work on racial equity. And we watched a video by the Farm to School Network where they were talking specifically about that, about teaching racial equity and teaching diversity in the school garden. And one of the things that one of the educators said was that they plant food of different cultures that reflect the cultures in the student population. And she said, when you eat my food, the food of my culture, then you really start to begin to get to know me. And I liked to see in your presentation you mentioned cultural learning in the garden, and that the staff member from the school was talking about the way that they use the foods in Korean cooking, or I've seen photos of the multicultural events that you've done in the North Thurston School District. I think that is something that's happening right now. It's work that's ongoing, that's addressing this focus of Thurston Thrives, and so rather than reinvent the wheel, I would love to see ways that we can help to keep that going and expand those opportunities for kids to have those multicultural experiences through food and through gardening.
Yeah, one of my favorite evening events was we did a cooking with kids. It was just 3rd grade that got invited, and it was a cooking with kids night. And the team of interns that I had decided that they really wanted to make homemade tortillas from scratch. And they came up with a recipe. We had kind of a buffet of ingredients, and then their activity was to make the tortillas and chop up herbs and greens to add to their meal. And when we got there that night, I fessed up to all the parents in the room who were, scattered around the gym getting ready to prepare their meal. I said, look, I've never made tortillas myself, and I'm a little nervous, and just know we are all going to learn this together. And one mother on one side of the room raised her hand and said, well, I grew up making them. That's what we did in our home all the time. And then another dad on the other side of the room said, yeah, me too. So they stepped up and they taught us how to do it. And it was just this really natural moment of they led the lesson and taught us. And one of the things that I found so interesting about that was that both of those parents, separate, grew up making those homemade tortillas. It was something that they were very proud to share, but they had never done it with their own children at home. And I know that culturally, my mom's German and we cook German food. And, sometimes you forget to pass on those traditions, or you don't take the time or whatever. And so what I love about that night was not only did it provide an opportunity for them to shine and share and be really proud of their food, they also had an opportunity and a moment with their children that they hadn't had yet.
That's really awesome. Yeah. How do we make more of that happen? is the thought that I have.
But I fessed up and said I didn't know what I was doing, and I feel like that is such a huge part of the approach. Even in the garden, I'm like, I'm no master gardener, I'm no expert. We're out here learning together, and that you could just feel how inviting and welcoming, and that's where all those moments happen of people sharing. Um, Again, that cross-cultural, generational sharing, it opens and invites that. So if I hadn't fessed up that I didn't know what I was doing, I don't know if that moment would have happened.
That's great. Does anybody else have any comments or thoughts or questions to share? I know we're getting close to the end of our time together, so I want to be respectful. But if anybody has any additional thoughts,
yeah, one comment. Just it's amazing the depth and the breadth of everything you're doing. It's really exciting. And I feel like a broken record because I'm always bringing this organization up, but I wanted to encourage you, if you're not already aware of the Pacific Education Institute, to connect with them. Unfortunately, their South Sound field STEM coordinator just went back to teaching, so that they'll have someone new in that position. But I think they could really help with establishing the educational links with the garden that are all aligned to next generation science standards, that kind of give that framework for teachers. Because not only is gardening daunting and taking all of that on, but a lot of elementary school teachers in particular are daunted by science, just period. And so they're very good at making those links and giving the teachers the professional development to really feel comfortable and confident getting kids outside in these ways. And so I think that it could be a mutually supportive relationship.
I will do that. This kind of sharing, I know I've gone on, but I really don't do enough of that. I don't, and it's hard to articulate all that we do. I mean, you just saw, I didn't even scratch the surface, and I have so many incredible stories. And so, yeah, it's pretty awesome work.
Thank you, Michaela, for sharing about your work. It's super exciting. I know I'm inspired to keep trying to find ways to fund it so that you can continue to expand the number of children that you touch with this work.